the resources in the company are properly and optimally utilized, right? If let's say the requirement in the market is 1,000 units of something, you cannot provide for 100, or you cannot provide for, let's say, 1,500, because that will be wasteful. So the accuracy, the closer you are, the better you are able to manage, and the more competitive you are going to become in terms of pricing, in terms of doing things. Now, basis that allocation, obviously there are budgets that you need to find, which you allocate to each resource. We need 10 salespeople, we need so many warehouses, we need so many other things, so many trucks if logistics is involved and is owned. And then it also is important in terms of managing the inventory, particularly the SKUs. Like I told you yesterday, the stock keeping units are important. You cannot be making 1 kg packages when the requirement or the more frequent usage is that of 250 grams. And then once you're focused and have set targets, obviously the forecast itself becomes a good measure of how you are performing. So these are the important reasons why we need to forecast things. It is the forecast not only happens in sales, the forecast also happens in materials or purchase. The forecast will happen everywhere. Forecasting is one of the major kind of responsibilities of the manager. Okay. Now, how do we go about forecasting? We first take the historical data as to what we were. Normally, you would see that last year, if we were doing 10%, 100 units, this time the growth required to remain competitive and ahead of the competition is 10%. So we should do 110 units. Okay, so that's one way of forecasting. And now once you've said that that should be the target, then you forecast which is the areas where you would be able to accommodate that additional 10 units. Now, one of the other things that is used is the growth in the market potential. You understand the potential is what the market can absorb. So that also, every year it grows because the population is growing and everything is growing. Customer needs are growing. So using the historical data, we can say, let's say last year, we sold 100 units of laptops. This year, the market itself has grown by 10%. So at least we should grow by 10% and then compete and have a higher percentage than what the competitors. That means snatch away sales from competitors. Now, this is also done through researching the market where growths are happening, haphazardly. So if you're constantly researching the markets in which you are and the markets that you think are good for you, then you are able to predict the demands that might be coming from there. Qualitative forecasting is very important in marketing as such. Let me first get to what is qualitative marketing or forecasting. What is qualitative? Dheeraj, Sharmishta, any one of you? The thing is written there. Basically, we all know that human beings are maybe 90% emotions. I mean, these are not exact statistics, and only 10% rationality. Okay, in which case, the more the salesman can pick up the insights of changing things, then it would become important, and they would be able to forecast as to how their products would move. Every product has, like, let's say a car has several variants. So depending on the insights picked up, it is possible for salespeople to forecast that this particular model, this variant will sell an X number, and that variant will sell a Y number, and then another will sell a different number. So then the whole forecast is taken back into the factory, and then the material forecasts how they will get all that. Okay, so qualitative forecast is a it's more important than quantitative forecast uh, for marketing, and more especially for sales, because sales has to really, hold hands with the customer. Quantitative forecast is a mathematical statistical model, okay, where like when you do the market research, you come up with data and you can see the market growth, etc., etc., and then you can kind of superimpose it on your own forecast. Time series analysis is a study of data collected over time to identify seasonality. Now, like yesterday we spoke that cement does not sell during monsoon. So if you study that, staying at a distance, you will be able to find out that, okay, when it is a festive season, a particular product moves much more. When it is a rainy season, when it is a winter season, so there is a seasonality. So if you plot that graph, you will know and you will be able to forewarn your factory that, okay, at that time, I do not require so much, but at that time, I require extra. So what factory can then try to do is that during those, down periods, they can continue manufacturing and then be able to meet the demand when it is more than the normal or more than the average. Predictive analytics are basically usage of a lot of technology where you predict basis all these things that we have talked about. Now, what are the tools? Excel is one which we commonly use. There are customer relationship software available, okay, where all this prediction can happen. There are forecasting software available, and there are inventory management systems which are available, which will also be able to help you because the data really comes from sales. So it is possible to kind of use those to project and forecast your likely sales in future. Then statistical software like R, Panda, these are all technological things. Machine learning platforms are there, which the machine learns and is able to predict. So what's wrong happening here? Now, the impact of digitalization in sales, firstly, that helps. That's a kind of a game changer where a small person can, if he's on a digital platform, he can match up to the biggest in the industry. Okay, so digitalization increases the reach of any company, whether big or small. Okay, it obviously digitalization speeds up your work because a lot of things get calculated. I mean, imagine when we fit the formulas in an Excel sheet, we just have to enter the basic figures and everything gets calculated. Now, algorithms are written to even take care of that, to pick up information from various sources and then mix and match and come up with a kind of a decision tree where it can. Digital tools also help you personalize. One good example is a mail merge that happens in Outlook, where you can address hundreds and thousands of people by merging the mail and personalizing it by actually putting their name. Then real-time insights come if you are seeing a particular tendency trend happening in a particular place. Let's say a mobile of a peculiar color, let's say color blue, is selling more in a particular area. It's an insight that there the people living or the your particular target customers or target group are more fond of blue phones than any other color. So you're getting a real-time data which you can, which a sales manager will do well to constantly analyze and come up with insights which he can feed back to the factory and it will also help you in forecasting what would be the sales line. Obviously, digitalization is now made it possible for e-commerce side, and the most important thing about uh, digitalization is keeping the customer engaged. Now, I'll ask you two questions. Yesterday, there was one question. Name a product where the USP and value addition has made them come up, and product where this has not happened and they've gone down and they're lost. This time I will start with Dheeraj.
Sir, the USP, as you discussed, I think it
Yeah.
is. So I think if you take the Apple products, so their USP is the technology and the quality what they are providing to the customers. They are far ahead with their competition. As such, there is no means there is no number one and number two in their field and which areas they are dealing with.
No,
So that,
what is so unique selling proposition? They don't
so
advertise technology at all.
but sir, the quality and the product which they are using it means which they are supplying it, it is far ahead. So I will tell you an example that suppose the other phones after 2 3 years it will ask for upgrades and all, and these will keep down slowing down after year. But if you go for the Apple products, if it is a 2015, 2016, 2017 also, even after using it for 6 7 years, the performance will not deteriorate. So the quality and the performance which they are providing today means they are continuously providing it. That is the
So,
USP, and that is making the market for them going
yeah,
forward.
so what is, I've still not understood what is the unique selling proposition in that.
Sir, the quality and the
The
technology
unique
ahead.
selling proposition does not talk about technology, Dheeraj. The
Okay.
unique selling proposition talks about a benefit. What is in it for me, WIIFM, is the proposition that you make. You remember in the very first lecture I said it's all about
Yes, sir.
getting into.
WIA.
So what is that WIIFM that Apple is providing?
Sir, the value for money means the what money I'm providing it to them, and
No, it is
in
not a
meantime.
value for money product. Value for money products are usually low priced, okay, and they deliver superior value. This is
Okay.
an experiential product, a lifestyle product. So they are providing their unique selling proposition is lifestyle, where you can remain convenient and worry free. Okay, so
Okay.
all their advertising, all their communication is centered around that. Okay,
Okay, sir.
Sarvista, can you give an example?
Sir, actually, I thought on the same lines as Dheeraj. Reason being, I was more hoping towards Samsung mobile phones. So
Okay, so
there,
what is their unique selling
yeah.
proposition?
So their unique selling proposition is the model, the design, the attractiveness of the design, which attracts the customers towards them. So every new time they're kind of innovating, unlike any other mobile phone companies. So they are the first ones who had, brought on the flip phone. They are the first ones who actually brought on the smartphone to an extent. Apple came up a little bit later. So Apple provides security more, though
Okay,
than the features of them. They provide security. So when we go and buy Apple phones, we know it's not going to get hacked. We know it is secure in every time. Our data is there. But for
so that's
Samsung,
right. So
yes,
it is a peace of mind, a kind of lifestyle that if I am an Apple owner, that would be the unique selling. But in the case of Samsung, you are saying that their unique selling proposition is being innovative. Is that what you
yeah,
are saying?
yes,
Uh,
sir.
all right. And now give me an example of a product where value add has made the difference. I will start with Sarmishta this time.
So, again, coming to mobile phones, it was Nokia actually. When Nokia didn't survive, and then they had to add value because Nokia was very famous for its battery life and everything. And when they kind of completely moved out of the market because they were unable to bring in smartphones. So their value addition was that once they again came up with the smartphones, though in not the same place as Nokia was earlier, but then to certain extent people are due to the name they have again started buying it. So the value addition would be changing their tactics and provide and moving ahead with the present day trends.
Okay, we'll talk about this. What about you, Dheeraj?
Sir, for me, the value-added service company which I feel that has succeeded in last 10 to 20 years is the Maruti Suzuki in India. So as such, they are not the technology ahead companies as compared to the Ford, Volkswagen, and others. But what they have done good is they are having a low cost product also, low cost vehicles, and their service is very good. So whenever you travel across the India, every 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, you will get their service. Other companies, the companies which are coming from Europe, they are not having the service facilities in India. So this is their value added service, which is making them the one of the largest in India, and even they are starting importing. So there I
Yes,
feel that they have upper hand on this.
that is correct. And Sharmista, you were not on the ball because it was not the smartphone. The value addition comes by giving something extra over the smartphone. Okay, so
Right, sir.
let's stick to mobiles only. Uh, Airtel, Vodafone, etc. They give you several added services. You can play games through them. You can, various value added services that come along when you take a connection from Vodafone or from Airtel, and that decides the customer, okay, as to which phone or which service he will take. Okay, the basic service is phone service and SMS, and then they start adding a few things. Okay, now taking from there, this last point, customer engagement. Okay, the digitization has actually allowed you to remain engaged with the customer. So you will see many companies uh, sending out apps which would have a game. You play around that product. And if it's interesting, you continue to remain engaged with the product, and therefore it remains top of your mind. Have you experienced some of it? They will give you a quiz, they'll give you something by
So
which,
this,
yeah, tell me, Dheeraj.
so nowadays they will send a small quiz also, a 5 question quiz for the.
That's right. So what they are trying to do is, once they have your details, they are able to promote themselves not only for the product they sold to you, but other products that might be in line with the same. You know, so that is one of the biggest advantages or impact that digitization has made, where you can remotely, without disturbing anybody, try and keep the customer engaged with you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, here are the other things that keep happening. Okay. So the online channel, we know that e-commerce websites are there. We can always, marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Etsy, or even Snapdeal or Flipkart, social media sales. Now, this you have seen that YouTube has sent to you, Facebook and Instagram. They people are able to reach out to a lot of people. Uh, I mean, the companies are able to reach out to a lot of people through social media, because now just about everybody is, some way or the other involved with social media, right? So social media marketing is becoming a very important phenomenon. Mobile apps are there, which are like the games, etc., that we talked about. Email, we have been getting emails. There is something known as affiliate marketing, where the distribution channel is different. Can you name a product? Have you heard of a cosmetic company called Avon?
Avon, yes, sir.
Okay, so Avon doesn't have a presence on uh, in brick and mortar stores. Avon also does not have presence on the e-commerce site or marketplaces. What they have are a lot of affiliates who are housewives, ladies, etc., who sell on their own. Sell and then they make a margin. Okay, that and then network marketing is what also happens, where there are some health companies where you form a network and it's a 1:3 kind of a ratio, where you keep on buying and keep on. Modi products are one of them. Okay, so these are the new ways in which distribution channels are expanding. Now, I don't know what's happening, man. Can you see this? These are the emerging trends. First is e-commerce is becoming more and more and more dominant. Today, even if you want to eat food, you use a Zomato or a Swiggy. There has to be an integration between various channels, offline, online. There have been, I know a lot of people, and you can also include me in that if I have to buy a pair of shoes, I go to a showroom, check it out myself, and then maybe place an order online. So unless the communication is same for both, unless everything is integrated, I will not be able to, make a decision. Artificial intelligence is now becoming an important thing, which studies your habits and therefore picks up insights. And therefore, it is possible to make a proposition to you tailored almost to your needs. And therefore, you have a better chance of, if you do it creatively, that part is a human. If you do it creatively, you have a better chance of ensuring sales. Okay. Then sustainability and green distribution is becoming a hot thing. Today, everybody is talking about electric cars, because the generations coming have become more sensitive than what was in my time, okay, about environment and about sustainability. Just hold on a second. रीता, मेरा क्लास चल रहा है, हम खत्म करके तुमको 12 बजे के बाद फोन करते हैं. हाँ, हम बात करते हैं तुमसे. बात. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and sustainability, I mean, today, even our Prime Minister and G20 is meeting, and one of the most important things that they are talking about is sustainability. Green distribution is becoming a very important thing, and that is one of the biggest challenges that businesses are facing. Then there is a subscription model. Today, you don't need to buy a thing 100%. Okay, so you can go to Hyundai or you can go to Suzuki and buy it on lease. Okay, you pay a subscription, use their car, and once the lease is over, you can return the car and take a new one. So, or take, for instance, particularly in the IT field, there are a lot of software which you don't buy outright. You have an annual subscription for it, and then you pay and use it. Take, the example of all the OTT platform. You pay a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription and then use it. And then there are direct to customer brands. These are custom made, normally high-end, high margin products, which are kind of taken for direct delivery, because they are so high. So if you keep a middleman, you may have to give, you make the product kind of unaffordable. So many customized products are direct to customer brands. Okay. Now, what are the steps that are to be taken? These are days that we need to think globally. We need to think whatever are the world standard, so that if we need to quickly enter international markets. So one of the first things that we do, as we also do in the domestic market, is research the market. We already talked about that in the first lecture. Then, depending on what we discover from that research, we formulate a strategy as to how will we enter the market. Because it is always the first impression which lasts as long as possible. Then we also have to know the the statutory and the legal and the regulatory norms that are prevailing. Say, I'll give you an example of alcohol. Okay, you can sell alcohol taking a license in some states. You can sell alcohol freely in some states. In India, I'm talking of India, the world is even more complex. But take a state like Bihar, you can't do anything about it. Okay. So if you are still going to try and struggle to sell in Bihar, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. So you need to understand that fully before you enter the market, before you go to the second step of selling, which is prospecting. At the suspecting stage, you discover that in Bihar, there is no way you can legally sell. So what do? You don't waste your time, you move your energies somewhere else. Then logistic and supply chain, the efficiencies that can be derived by using multimodal systems, the last mile connectivity, which can be by smaller vehicles, the transportation which can be done through waterways, which is cheaper, or railways, those kind of things. Then obviously the payment in the international market, payment is, and currency management is very important, because people deal in foreign currencies, particularly dollar, how it comes and what really happens to it, how are you taxed, etc., there in that country and in our home country. And then the most important thing, and this is really the most important of all of them, is the seller must always be culturally very sensitive. Okay, we are no moral pundits or something like that. We just align ourselves to the culture of where we want to sell. Now, giving an example, in India, we'll go abroad later. But in India, suppose you are wanting to sell the pagdi cloth, where do you think it will sell most? And where won't it sell?
It will sell in Punjab most.
Yes. And where won't it sell?
Kerala or some locations.
Yeah, somewhere in South. Okay. Now, this is a cultural aspect. Okay. Where would saris sell more? Sarmista, where would saris sell more and where it will sell less?
So saris generally get sold either in southern region or the eastern region, but it can sell less like in Arunachal Pradesh, basically in
Exactly.
the northeastern areas.
Exactly. So obviously, being sensitive to the culture. Now, international market, I think I gave you the example in the first lecture that if a particular color of green, if used in packaging, okay, will not sell in the Middle Eastern countries, because that is their religious color. And if you are throwing the packaging, you are kind of insulting the religion. There is a flower called carnation, okay, which is a flower given worldwide it's a beautiful flower and it's given as a greeting. But in most countries of South America, particularly the Spanish countries, carnation is a symbol of death. I mean, you present it during the funerals. So if you are going to, use the brand name carnation or use the flower to sell your product, the cultural barrier prohibits you from selling in those countries. You get what I mean? Now, similarly, let's say countries like India don't eat beef, and in most parts, not even pork. So if you want to sell those kind of products, or even in your advertisement show those kind of products, the chances is that you will get a rejection from the customer. Okay. In Pune, there is a Chinese restaurant. The main restaurant, you can probably order pork, but the area in which I live, there is a substantial number of Muslim population. Okay. So you don't get pork there. They don't have that in the menu. And once I asked why aren't you, because there you keep, why aren't you not keeping? He said, you know, I mean, if we keep pork, the customers won't even come into the the restaurant. So these are cultural things, and if the salesperson is not sensitive, then he might spend his energies and get nothing. Okay. Now, what are the ethical issues that must confront a sales manager? First is selling, has always had a bad name, where we feel that वो salesman अपना कुछ करने के लिए कुछ भी बोल देगा. Now, in my experience as a seller, one thing that I have not ever done is be dishonest. Either way, either if I don't know about the product, or if the product has a limitation and I'm asked about it, I will not hide it. It is better always to remain transparent, because that gets you greater trust. The other thing is, today in the digital age, where everywhere data is asked for, you go to a super bazaar, when you are trying to get a billing done, they ask for your mobile number. Okay, some places they might even ask you for your Aadhaar card. So that kind of privacy intrusion, often worldwide, not so much in India, but worldwide, is resented. And therefore, you have to be careful, take only as much data as you really need without attempting the privacy. Another example of this is, like I gave you, that if you are sitting in a restaurant and the waiter is standing throughout next to you, his intentions might be to offer you the best possible service, but it is not really that. He's irritating you, because he's intruding in the privacy where you as a family have gone and you are trying to talk about something which you don't want others to know. It's kind of intruding. Then fair price, this is something which keeps on coming up in the consumer sale. Fair price is something which is very, very important, which means, and this is what was actually attempted when we had value added tax, where every stage, everybody had to declare, their price. In fact, insurance companies still practice it. If there is an insurance agent who comes to you, and he sells you a product, you can also ask him that what is the, commission he's going to get. And he's duty bound by law to tell you. Now, that kind of transparency obviously builds trust. Then obviously don't false claims every time you've made. You may make a sale once, but after that, it becomes. So a sales manager always has to, in his strategy, make sure that his team does not indulge in it. Conflict of interest is an another important thing, where two party, like I'm involved in teaching you all, and then I'm at the same time involved in doing something which is contrary to this, or which might affect this, then my interests are conflicting with each other. Okay, customer welfare with the consumerism movement rising, this is becoming most important. So here this diagram tells you all that an ethical salesperson is, and managing this is what a sales manager does. So how do you build trust with a customer? First, be consistent and be constant with what you are saying to meet the customer expectation. Do not overcommit or do not undercommit anything. Transparency, be reliable, okay, every time that, and that is something which we always say, that if we go to McDonald's, whether we go to McDonald's in Delhi or whether we go to McDonald's in Pune or whether we go to McDonald's in Chennai, the hamburger tastes the same. Okay, so it creates a certain amount of trust with McDonald's. Similarly, the behavior of, so salespeople are trained that they should first greet you, etc., etc. They're down to so much basics. Responsive customer service is a very, very important thing. Yes, day before yesterday, I talked about, in the first lecture, that you try and call a call center and you are put on a kind of a music and everything for 1.5 hours and nothing happens. That is being irresponsible. Okay, that particular technology is supposed to help you, but if it has gone too far, it can be counterproductive. Follow through is another important thing. I'll give you one example. Both of you have a vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you buy a vehicle, there is a salesperson who has sold you that vehicle in the showroom, right?
Yes, sir.
After that, we forget about the salesperson, and then there is a service person who takes care of all the service needs, all the defects, everything else, right?
So,
Well,
Yes.
here was a case where I bought a Maruti car, in fact, Maruti Ertiga, and I knew this salesperson, so I rang him up, and he said he'll get a technician to come and look it out. But the technician did not come, so I kind of was unhappy and rang him up. What is this? You won't believe it. The next day, early in the morning, I rang him up in the night, and next day, early in the morning, even as I went to my parking lot, this guy himself was personally kind of repairing that particular part. There was some nut which had come loose, okay, which he was doing it himself. Now that endeared me to that salesperson, and as long as he remained in Maruti, I made sure that I did everything. Even if I had to buy an accessory, I would ring him up and consult him because my trust in him had grown, and by that measure, it had grown in Maruti. Okay, so that follow through where he keeps meeting, he keeps asking you once in a while. He said, "Koi takleef to nahi ho rahi? Can I ask servicing people to do something for you, etc. Or can the insurance person contact you?" Always makes a difference. Then always ensure that the customer, this is a primary job of a salesman or a sales manager, is to make sure that you get constantly customer feedback. Can you tell me why?
For the changes at their end. Yes.
Simply to pick up the insights of what is changing. Okay, so to improve the product, as I've put it here, but it is what is changing, what else does the customer need? Can you value add that way? That is the value addition that every customer is looking for. And you will see that many companies, particularly the e-com companies, ask you to rate. And then when you are rating, once in a while, I mean, I got a call and they requested for about 15 minutes of my time to talk to me about it. And what they were actually trying to do was pick my brains and try to pick up some insights, which they will find if there are many number of customers having. So they would suggest, do you feel like this? Shouldn't there be this? And then, oh yeah, come to think of it, yes, why not? If I can get, why not? But if you increase the price too much, so all that was the sum and substance of that particular 15 minutes. But those 15 minutes, whatever they picked up from me and from a variety of people, are then codified, and then the company works around how they can value add to the existing product. Okay. So any questions on these? Any questions?
Sir, two small things I would like to know, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, one is the qualitative, as you're telling, na, the forecasting thing. So
Yeah.
qualitative is more of what you're telling is just to get the emotional connect with the customer and get the information, or how is it means?
See, basically, like I told you, that once we start, let's say, which vehicle do you have, Dheeraj?
Sir?
Which vehicle do you drive?
Maruti Suzuki Baleno.
Okay. So you are driving a Baleno. For how many years have you driven that?
Last 2 years now.
2 years. So after you've experienced all the features, think about it. You may desire some value adds to it, which is how the accessory market works, right?
Right, sir.
Accessory, because you always feel, if I could have this in the car, why not?
Yes, sir.
So that you are not able to specify, but if it is available, made available to you, then you say why not? Okay, and you buy it. Now, if Maruti was sensitive about knowing these trends, and if there is a large majority, then they could build it straight into the product itself.
At the start, you're telling.
Yes.
At the launch of the product.
Yes. So then you say, okay, this feature is a new one and I like to have it. Up to that, you wait with an open mind. Okay, car hogi, isme ye hoga, wo hoga, AC hoga, automatic gear bhi hoge, or एक वो screen bhi hoga, multimodal entertainment hoga. But then they say, okay, this will also have, weather control for all your different seats. So what will you think about it? Oh, great. That's what product development is all about. Okay. Now, these are insights when you are talking to your customers. And this is what sales does more than marketing. Marketing must also do on their own, but sales does every day. So if I go to buy a car and I said, ये सब feature तो ठीक है यार, ये नहीं हो सकता क्या इसमें? A good sales man and his sales manager will pick that up and start collating how many of the, let's say 100 customers came. After that, he will start suggesting, would you like to have this? Okay. So not at the time of buying, but after you buy, sir, ये एक feature और अगर ऐसा होता तो क्या होता? After maybe 2 months of his buying or 3 months of buying, just a casual talk and you pick up the insights. So those insights are the qualitative data which you collate and then, put it into numbers for, the management to decide what to do with it. Does it clarify things to you, Dheeraj?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sir.
What was the other
More
thing? You said 2 small things. So what was the other thing?
Sir, next is what about the fair pricing, as you have mentioned, na, in the points table?
Yeah.
So suppose a company is having a leadership in the market. Suppose a company is consider Apple or another scenario, Mercedes or someone. So we know that they are charging a royalty to us or a proprietary charges or something like that. So will that be considered as a fair pricing or?
Yes, because I'll tell you what, pricing is a function of the value that you as a customer derive. Okay, but I'll give you an example, and it's a sad example of Tata Nano.
Yeah.
Okay, now why do you all think, both you and Sharmista, why do you think Tata Nano failed?
Sir, I think as per me, it was not fulfilling the requirement for the people, although it was very well priced and all. But as a person or as a family, it was not fulfilling the requirements for a person or something. So that is one of the reasons for.
Okay, we'll come to this. First, let us hear what Sharmista has to say.
Sir, it was not fulfilling the purpose of a car, providing the required uh, things which are required in the car. It was too lightweighted. It was prone to accidents. It was easily, it was very lightweighted. Is one of the reasons why Nano got abolished from the market.
Okay. Now, let me tell you the popular reason. Firstly, Nano was not positioned against any car. It was positioned to upgrade two-wheeler owners. So that addresses the size and the likeness to a large extent. Okay. It was always what Ratan Tata went out into the market with, that I see that youngsters are driving in two-wheelers, which is a bit more dangerous than driving on a four-wheel. And therefore, I want to come with a four-wheeler which will make them upgrade. And to be able to do that, they said that they will come up with a car which is Nano. Now, to be able to do that, they wanted to come as close as possible to a two-wheeler price, which was a 1 lakh car, a lakh takia as it was called.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, two things. One is popularly in the marketing circles that when I buy a car, it's a personal statement, and therefore, once people know that I bought a cheap thing, they the respect doesn't happen. Okay, that is a valid perception. But more importantly, what hit them was the unfair pricing. They said, yeah, the car is for 1 lakh rupees, but for transportation, you have to pay this much. For this thing, you have to pay this much. And that actually boiled down to something like almost 1.75 lakhs. So the customer believed that he was being cheated. Okay, that was unfair pricing. If you are declaring a price of 1 lakh, okay, then stick to 1 lakh all found, as is done in the industry. Does that answer your question, Dheeraj?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
After commitment, the changes.
Yeah, and then it was so bad that one of the things for which Tata Group as a whole stands is trust. That was beginning to affect not only Tata Motors but other Tata companies. यार इसमें कुछ hidden तो नहीं है. Okay, so that mistrust. So Tata did not discontinue the car only because it was not moving, but it was also affecting other products. They have not given up that product. They are still trying to come out, and this time they will not make this mistake. Okay, they are trying to come out with the electric version of Tata Nano, and they are not talking that it will be the cheapest car, it will be a 1 lakh car and all that. Does that answer your question? And do you both understand how marketing, the complexities of marketing can be? It is always around a perception of what I value. Okay, I value something, and I gave you the example of buying a shirt from Chiragdin for about 60% of my salary, and the same thing I was getting it for at 10% of my salary at that time. Okay, but I was happy because perceptually I felt I got a good deal. Always remember that the customer must come out a winner in a negotiation situation. So unless you can't, fall back, you can't give in because of variety of reasons. You should always try to give in to the customer. He must feel that he's a winner, and that's how he's the king. So this ends sales and distribution. Now we'll get into what is known as integrated marketing. Integrated marketing communication. Okay, will you give me a minute, please?
Yes.
Yeah, sure, sir.
So today, is this visible?
Yes, sir. It is.
So in the next two sessions, we'll discuss what is known as integrated marketing communication. Okay. This is probably in marketing the most important. Communication is the most important thing in marketing, because unless you can communicate, unless you can tell the people who you are, and what you can do, how would they know? Okay. So, and that if you say in a manner differently at different places, then what happens? You create a confusion. So therefore, every method of communication must be done in such a way, can be done in such a way that communication is uniform and the customer is not confused. Right? Do you all agree with that?
Yes, sir.
And that is how actually this integrated marketing communication is the way to create a brand. Okay. Then you don't, if you go and pick up a packet of Colgate, okay, you are sure of what you are buying. You don't have to look it. You buy a packet of a packaged let's say Maggie, you're sure of what you're buying. That is because the communication has not confused you. You know, so that is the thing. Now let's jump right into it. So first, the definition. IMC stands for Integrated Marketing Communication, a strategic approach that ensures all marketing messages and activities are consistent and aligned across the channels. Now, what does channels in this mean? In this case, channels means paper, print ad, TV ad, social media advertising, PR work, personal selling, how the salesman must approach. Okay. Coherence, and therefore there is a need for coherence across the channels. It should be similar, it should be coherent. If you say that, my product will do this in you, for you, in let's say hoarding, and in your TV ad, you say my product will do something else. So the customer gets confused as to what is the benefit that he's looking for. And if you put too many benefits, then also customer gets confused and he starts suspecting you. So therefore, IMC is basically the foundation on which you do holistic marketing. Usually, when you communicate, you know the mechanism of communication, right? Both of you?
Yes, sir.
What
Through
is the
media.
mechanism? What is the process?
So through ads and through media.
No. The process of communication, how does it happen? Okay, there is a speaker. Let's simplify it. There is a speaker. He speaks to you in a code, which may be called a language, like I'm speaking to you English or Hindi. So there is a code with which that is received by you, okay, and you decode it and then understand it. Both of you agree that that is what happens?
Yes, sir.
So,
Now, what really happens between this coding and decoding, a lot of misunderstanding happens. Okay. I may be meaning something, but because of your own perceptions, your own culture, your own upbringing, whatever, all that put together, you interpret that communication differently. Now, classic case was the Tanishq example, where they were actually trying to talk about national integration, and it became a big issue where it was interpreted differently. There was a Muslim Bahu, sorry, a Hindu Bahu in a Muslim, family, and they were trying to celebrate a Hindu festival, and it became a issue. Okay, so that is not the right way. So if you can understand the customer, and the customer now being the one that is specific mostly to your product, his culture, his background, his everything. So you will see a Maruti 800 ad, which would say, Kitna deti hai? Okay, where the rocket is going and this guy is boasting, and this guy simply asks, Kitna deti hai? What is the mileage? Okay, now that is an appeal to a person who is right now, okay, he has been able to afford a car, but needs to be careful about the petrol expenses, which is fuel is the highest, expense in any vehicle. So he's asking for that. But can you imagine a Mercedes-Benz customer asking कि इसका consumption कितना है?
No, sir.
So it is simply that if I'm going to change the ad and say Mercedes, I'm driving, I'm showing a Mercedes car, and there is this rich person who says, Kitna deti hai? So it is likely to put off the customer. But if I'm showing a Mercedes as showing all the luxuries, etc., and I'm not able to answer kitna deti hai, so a Maruti customer, Maruti 800 customer will not buy it. You understand? So it has to be customer centric. Then a brand, I mean, brand identities are not built just like that. So that brand is simply a perception, but in many fashions, you should think of it as a human being, as a person. Okay, so every person you meet, you make an impression. Is this kind of a person, that kind of a person? Okay, he will. So I'll give you one example here. Now, say suppose there are two friends. One is a known gunda, and the other one is a known sadhu. They go to a place, and there is a brawl that happens, and they beat up the guy and come, and you hear about it. The chances are, what will you think? Who started this, or who did it? Usually, because of that perception you have of the gunda, where he may not have started it, the sadhu might have started it. You think, no, ho na ho, wahi kya ho? And you peace karaya wo isne karaya. So that is what a brand is about. Brand creates an impression in your mind, and you always. In the first lecture, I gave you the example of Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, wherever he's in a film which rebels against the system, it works because Amitabh Bachchan, our impression, our perception of him is somebody who breaks, unfair norms. Okay, he's not a kind of a chocolate cream hero who dances around the trees. Okay, so we are not able to. Now, I'll give you one example from the automobile industry. You heard of this car called Wagon-R?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay. Wagon-R, when it was launched, we were not used to a squarish looking car. So people started saying, hey, this is a expanded auto rickshaw. And it was failing. Although from the insights that were picked up by Maruti, everybody felt that getting into the car and getting out of a Maruti car was a challenge, or rather a little uncomfortable, because there were low seats and you needed to get out and the doors wouldn't open properly, etc., etc. So the answer was to come up with something which is known as, in the automobile industry, as a tall boy car. So raised seats and higher roof. And that is what was the result of, that resulted in what is known as Wagon-R. But the looks and our perception of a car was different. We wanted a more kind of rounded kind of a situation, and therefore it did not work. So how did Maruti then revive it? What did it do? If you watch the old YouTubes, you'll know what it did. What it did was it re-engineered the perception of that car. Said these cars are meant for mavericks and professionals. And you had a Maruti ad where the car would, the Wagon-R ad, where the car would be running and there are about 6 Doberman running alongside. So here is a very, just arrived kind of an executive who, in his free time does things which are different. Okay. That caught the imagination of the executive class, particularly the middle managers, to kind of start buying it and then start experiencing, yeah, getting out of it and into it is comfortable, even driving because of race seat, it is less tiring, etc., etc. Then the customer started justifying it. You understand? So brands are built to develop a particular impression or a particular perception. Okay. Then adaptability is the other thing that is happening to the digital age. We have to take care that while communicating, everything is digital, everything is, the landscape itself has changed into digital. Posters you want to make, you digitize it and make it. So you don't print posters in one place and send it to, you just send a digital picture of the poster, give the dimensions and it is posted. Let's say I'm doing it in Delhi, I send it to Chennai, you post it, print it there, etc., etc. And that also has helped make the whole thing, more uniform. Integrated marketing communication is also about uniformity of communication. So you decide a particular tagline and let's say circle everything around it. Okay. So here the diagram tells you what are the elements. Now this is what it's supposed to do. Okay. Consistency, efficiency, because now that you have decided that this kind of communication will go, all you have to do is keep translating into different mediums. For press, it will appear like this. For YouTube, it will appear like this. For TV commercial, it will appear like this. It's always customer centric. And therefore, your costs coming down gives you a competitive advantage of actually reaching the customer and communicating your USP. Obviously, improved ROI because you don't have to start everything from the scratch every time. And if you have integrated it, then adaptation to various media becomes easy. So integrated media strategy is first formed, and then you choose and pick the medium, the media in which you need to be and how you need to be. That again depends on where you can meet your target audience. Here it is, the importance of a diagram, corporate cohesion, and therefore a strategy is developed. It's technology based. It obviously, generates a team spirit. Many of us are working in the companies that we are working because at least subconsciously we like the tagline and we feel proud of it. Obviously, it is cost effective. If it is exhilarating, it is motivating not only the employees who are the internal customers, but also the external customers. You can measure it, and obviously it kind of develops when you have to give a brief to various agencies. Then once the strategy is known, it is possible to give them a client brief. Every ad agency, every social media agency will ask you for a brief. Okay. So it's not that the ad agency creates, something out of their own imagination, because they cannot be in conflict with the brand values. So here are the various, channels. Advertising, of course, is a paid kind of a promotion. Public relations is contacting the media, going to the newspapers, organizing events. Sales promotions, sales promotion activities where you may have something and you give 10% discount or sometimes give a free sample. Personal selling is the most important thing, where how your salesman is, and they are, you kind of train them, how they approach and how they communicate your brand is an important thing. Direct marketing, again, here also, once you have a communication strategy in place, it is possible to work within those frameworks to be able to communicate exactly and powerfully what you want to do. Then digital marketing, of course, is also there. Now, what are the steps that need to be taken? First, obviously, analyze what the situation is like, which means segmenting the market. Basis that, once you've selected the segment that you can service most profitably, then the next most profitably, and maybe the third most profitably. You don't say no to any customer, but you don't proactively pursue them. So once you've done that, then it is possible for you to calculate the customer lifetime value, and then you can set objectives as to what you're going to be able to do in terms of communicating. Okay, this is how it is going to be communicated, and this is what it must be. You obviously then select the media which is most important, or which the customers in that segment are most likely to visit. Let's say a woman's, cosmetic will have very little meaning in a men's magazine, right? Okay, so I mean, this is a very wild example, but you can, or you are selling to, let's say, companies. Okay, let's say cement companies. You are trying to sell a product, a particular machinery to cement. You advertise in the newspaper. Since it doesn't really matter, it will not be a concentrated effort, and therefore you will be wasting a lot of money. There will be, obviously, the cement manufacturers will also see that newspaper, but that will be a small show. So now, of course, it's not legal, but what I did was, I was working for a company called Standard Batteries. Okay. And Standard Battery, when they sold one battery, the biggest competitor, which was Exide, sold 10. Can you imagine the ratio? So obviously the resources also we had was 1/10 of what Exide had. And I needed to sell and get some share from Exide. So in a city like Bombay, I looked at who is the customer that I can service. Now there are also, these cottage industry batteries, the batteries in small scale sector, which are much cheaper than the branded batteries. Okay, for a variety of reasons, they don't have to pay, overtime, and all the overheads are much lower. So the taxi owners were not my target audience, because I can't sell at that price. No matter what I do, I can't do it. The rich and the famous would not be my target audience, because when the battery troubles them, it is not they who suffer. They just pay the money. It is a driver who has to take care. What they do is, they'll tell, take a battery badalwa ke aana hai, they catch a cab and they go home. Okay, it is a driver who suffers. But the driver is, motivated by the commission that the retailer could give him to buy. So Excite used to give, their dealers used to give about 100 rupees at that time to the driver who came. It's just like, the buses stop at various, intercity buses stop at various dhabas, specifically where the drivers are given free meal. So I realized that if I also imitate them and I tell the dealer to give more, but by me giving the dealer a little more, this is a never-ending battle. So I will not be able to win this. Then I looked at people who were driving cars themselves. Now imagine Dheeraj has to go to office. Okay, he has to report to the office ideally maybe at 9 o'clock. He leaves home at 8:30. because it normally would take him 25 minutes to reach there or 20 minutes to reach there. He wants to keep a 10-minute lag for whatever traffic jams. Now fancy his battery breaks down. It doesn't work at 8:25. What does he feel? Panic. Aaj ki tankha kati. Okay, number one. If it happens in the middle of the road, then what happens? He has to even push the car on the side and look at the heat that we are facing. In a situation like this, what happens to Dheeraj? So this was my target audience, where I could communicate excellent quality, and now I could design my communication to reach out to this customer. So I decided that, okay, if I give a newspaper ad, it will also go into the slum area, which is useless, and it will also go to the rich, it is useless. It doesn't concern them. So मैंने आपने newspapers में देखा होगा कि they, many small timers put leaflets, pink color, yellow color, छोटे-छोटे leaflets डालते हैं. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If it,
Along with the newspaper.
yeah, they come in that. But if I decided that I want to do that leaflet, then company will look cheap. So what I did was I got the same newspaper paper. It's called the newsprint, of the same size as the newspaper. Okay. And now on that, on one side, I printed a full page ad communicating my whatever is the USP. On the other side, I put replace, believe it or not, these forecasts for today, etc., etc., and filled it, and it made it look exactly like a newspaper. Now I went to the news vendors of the areas where people live who drove their car. This area was came under the RTO Andheri. It stretched from Bandra up to Borivali. Okay, so I would get the vendors to insert that. It's called newspaper insert. Insert that in the newspaper and send it across. And it is through there that we will give you after sales service. So we are holding a free service checkup here. I was able to communicate to the right people. It just so happened that in that area, we were selling roughly about 175 to 200 batteries. In 3 months' time, we were selling 1,000 batteries. In just 3 months of that activity. Okay, then we realized, okay, now what should we do next? The value addition. We started communicating through that same way that, okay, here we are holding a free service checkup. Please come. Now the internal issue was free service तो ठीक है उसका specific gravity ऐसे का देख लिया थोड़ा सा grease लगा दिया. Okay, but the more important thing was that because we could study that, we knew कि ये customer की battery 2 महीने में fail करने वाली है. So we could razor focus on him. And he said, नहीं यार मेरे को time नहीं मिलता है मैं ऑफिस में तो सर हम आपके ऑफिस में आके बैटरी लगवा के जाएंगे. Okay, so that was a value add service. Now all that turned around, and in about 6 months' time, Excite had difficulty even selling in that area. So that is what is the media selection. But now, of course, you can't use that because finally the newspaper walas got smart. You can use that, they allow you, but then you have to do it through them, and it is not as expensive as a full page ad. A full page ad those days used to cost about 2 lakhs. Okay, but this thing would cost me about 25-30,000. You understand? So a sales manager or a marketing manager has to think creatively and think out of boxes as to how he can reach his target customers. Then message integration, I've just told you. Implementation, how are we going to do it? Set smart objectives, okay, which can be measured and which can be, then improved upon. Then obviously documentation and reporting is always very important, because if you're not looking at it, or if you're not getting reports, so a marketing manager would also devise forms by which he can quickly see what is happening. And then after all that review, you obviously may need to, course correct some of the strategies that you've done. So this is what are the elements of IMC. So how does it do it? One is define the target audience. This is constructing a brand persona. Okay, this is constructing a customer persona. What is a persona, by the way? Sir, Mr. Neeraj, all of you have watched movies. Both of you have watched movies.
So,
Okay, both of you have seen some plays.
So larger
yes,
than the life,
And
let me say.
yeah, and both of you have also read some novels.
so,
Okay. Now suppose in any of these, I have to depict a Panditji. How would I depict him? Would he be wearing jeans and t-shirt? Would he be having very funky hairstyle?
no,
So in the minds of our customer, audience, a Panditji looks in a particular fashion, behaves in a particular fashion, and speaks in a particular fashion. Do you agree?
yes, sir.
Okay. And good marketers also, behind the scene, also draft that the brand also thinks in a particular fashion. Okay. Now that is what look at the customer perception, demographic. What is his age, gender, income, education, where is he located? What is the other social factors that are around him? Then his psychographics, which is his lifestyle, his interest, his values, his attitude, his behavioral aspects. How does he buy? Why is he loyal to some brand or not to others? What could be his emotional needs? Segmentation is done, therefore, basis that way. And then a customer persona is detailed. So if I have to sell a product, I draw up a picture, which is a typical, let's say I'm trying to sell Maruti 800, a typical entry level executive, okay, maybe at assistant manager level. I define everything. What is the kind of food he will eat? Which is the kind of restaurant he will go? What are the kind of films he will buy? Now that is picked up from the insights of that particular segment. Okay, so once you have drawn up the picture of what it is, then you kind of know the customer, which is in the mid center of the entire segment. Now, once that is done, you draw up a picture of your brand or your product. Okay, and if the two meet, then what happens? If the two meets, then what happens? If the customer persona and the brand persona coincide with each other, what would happen?
The customer will go for the purchase.
Yes, he will automatically lean towards that. So integrated marketing communication rests on actually drawing up the customer persona. Now, this is based on research on what the competitors do, and therefore you will see that in a product group, every company offers you the same product but with a different USP, which means within the segment, within a larger segment, they are appealing to a particular sub-segment. So car is a larger segment, and you have high net worth individual, rich, showing off. Then there are what is known as novo-rich, who have the money now, but they need to show off that they have arrived. So they have to be communicated separately. Okay. And then the thing starts graduating into others. I'll give you an example. All of you have heard of Coca-Cola, both of you, I'm sorry. Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to hear a story?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So when Pepsi started, they were so miserable because Coca-Cola was the thing in US. Everybody drank only Coke. So they were not able to sell. So desperate was the board of Pepsi that they said that, okay, we can't succeed. It's Coke all the way. Let's accept defeat and let's sell this plant. So they started thinking who would be the best customer for this. Since the machinery is the same, only the the mix is Coca-Cola has a different mix, which is their secret, and Pepsi has a different mix, which is their secret. So they said that Coca-Cola might just be able to buy the hard things. So let us go to Coca-Cola. They went to Coca-Cola, and the board of Coca-Cola laughed at them and really actually physically kicked them out. They said, get out. Okay. This infuriated and humiliated the the Pepsi board. So they came into their boardroom very angry, and they said, now we are not going to sell. We have to find a way to teach Coke a lesson. So they went into this customer persona, and they discovered, and this is a thing that is true for all of us, whether we are in US or in India, as long as we are adolescents, there is a tendency amongst us to rebel against particularly what the parents say. Do you agree with me? We always say, dad समझते ही नहीं है, mom समझती ही नहीं है, ये इसका करना जरूरी है. So they used it constructively. They did not, they did not want to destroy the family, but they used it constructively. So what they did was, it is around the same time, there was a dancer coming up whose dancing style was called moonwalking. Know the name of this person?
Yeah, Michael Jackson.
Yes. So Michael Jackson's new thing caught on with the youngsters. So they realized that this was a rebelling thing, because before that there was waltz and there was foxtrot and those kind of dancing that used to happen. So they appointed Michael Jackson as their brand ambassador, and they kept on saying in very subtle ways, sare niyam tod do. Okay. So what started happening is that when the family went into the restaurant, the parents would say, okay, this hamburger, flana, rimkana, whatever they wanted to have, and then a big jug of Coke. The youngster would say, no, for me, just make Pepsi. The parents said, fine, it's the same thing, yeah, you can have Pepsi. Over time, Pepsi picked up because the youngsters felt better when they could have it. It was their way of kind of settling scores with their parents. This is a psychological thing. This is psychomarketing. Now, what has started happening after maybe 15, 20 years, these young adults now became parents themselves. And Pepsi started losing sales. They were gaining new customers amongst the adolescents, but Pepsi started losing sales to those who were grown up. They graduated and they started having Coke. So, and I have already told you in yesterday's lecture that getting a new customer is 10 times more expensive than retaining an old one. So what could Pepsi do? Both of you all have seen Pepsi happening. So what could they do? Or what have they done?
Think about it. The only thing they did was change the color of their packaging. It became blue from white. Okay. Now that blue has an impact. If you do some neuromarketing, it has an impact of saying that you have kind of arrived, a royal blue or whatever it said. That is the color that Pepsi chose. And now they said, okay, we will still keep to the rebellion thing, but we will now talk about humorous, being funny. And therefore, if you remember in the World Cup, Cricket World Cup in India, I'm giving you an Indian example now, where Coca-Cola was appointed the official drinks partner. Okay. Now Pepsi automatically lost a chance to advertise, lost a chance to reach out to customers. So what could they have done? They came up with a series of ads where they had a world famous umpire called Dickie Bird who do things casually in a dance style, etc., etc. And they said there's nothing official about it. Okay. In one shot, they shut down the official drinking partner line of Coke. You understand? So that is what is defining a target audience to communicate with them. So obviously, just like Amitabh Bachchan from an angry young man, he is now an angry man who rebels against wrongs in the society. Okay, that is what Pepsi also did. So here are how you develop my message. Have an absolute clarity of what you want to communicate. Absolute. It should be razor focus clarity that this is my personality. I want to communicate this. Now, developing that personality is based on the insights that you pick up. You have to be likable to them, and therefore you pick up the insights and do that. Now, when Amitabh Bachchan appeared on the screen, okay, it was at that time that only romantic films and those Amir Garib films were being made. Here was a case where he got up and said that he will fight. Okay, he will not let anything happen. So Zanjeer, Diwar, these were the hits that came out, and it was something which was, it was insightful. It was in our minds all the time. We always wanted that. Okay, somebody to fight something which is not right in the society, and this guy was there doing it. Therefore, whether he was good looking or not, we didn't care. You understand? Then in doing what you're doing, there has to be consistency. So you have to adapt, but you have to adapt from a central theme. So his theme was rebelling against the evils in the society. Okay, and everything would happen around that. Now, if he did that, if he did romance, if he did some tragedy films, it would be a diffused image of who is Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, you will find that increasingly he does not get into, he picks up a cause and he's about that. And that cause is picked up by a market research of what is popular sentiment or what is the popular qualitative aspect that might be there in amongst the audience. Okay, uniqueness is always an important. We talked about a unique way of something which is not done by the competitors, is something if everybody is doing it and you are also doing the same thing. There is an old poster. If you keep doing the same thing that everybody is doing, then you will remain at the same place as you have been. Okay, emotion is the lifeblood of any marketing. You don't appeal to the logical sense. In fact, I'll show you in the next, when we are doing branding, that people buy more because of an emotional connect than because of logical connect. Though they use the logical, it's a very reasonably priced, boss. Okay, but there is no way a customer can determine that. In fact, so much is the emotional connect that when you are not a technically qualified person, you take price as the pointer of it being high quality. It may or may not be. Then values which communicate benefit. Like we say that the value that the customer is king, always, and therefore you don't cheat the king. If you can communicate that, and one good example is the Tata group of companies. If they come out with something, it is trusted that this will be good quality. Whether it is good quality or not is open to debate. Then, obviously, one of the things that you do through your communication is call to action, which means you are trying to ask the customer to come and buy, and you will say, please hurry. Sales closing this day. You're trying to cajole the customer into taking a fast decision. Adaptability is communicating the same message, but through different channels, TV media or social media or newspaper, print media, or through your PR exercises. Now, you don't enter into any PR exercise. You enter into a PR exercise where the brand gets associated with a certain value that you are trying to communicate. So if I'm trying to, which product? Name a product.
So any product totally?
I mean,
Soap, sir.
yeah, tell me, Sarvista.
Soap, little.
Little. Okay. So little is a soap. Now, if I want to use little, now what is the image that Sarvista we have of little?
It's a good scented soap and easily available, and it is pocket friendly.
No, those are hard facts. What is the feeling you get out of using little?
The fragrance and all.
No, that
Feels
is
nice.
not, those are hard. The feeling is that you're free. You have a model taking bath in a jharna or something like that. They said that
Yes.
you're free, you are that kind. So if little has to get into a PR campaign, what is the kind of event that it should participate in?
Some fashion show or something.
No, fashion show. It would be something which communicates living free. Okay, so it could be some kind of a medley dance program. All right, where people don't have to have to follow the steps of Kathak or steps of a foxtrot or steps of Bhangra. They come, they dance, they go, and they've just had fun. Okay, so there is a feeling of freedom. I don't have to show off that I'm a good dancer. If there is an event around that, then Liril would automatically try and use that as a platform to communicate the value of the brand. Okay, take another soap, Pears. Okay, now Pears is always related with keeping skin soft and all, so soft that it is baby soft. It's good to use for babies. So any mother and child kind of event, Pears might like to, participate there. If Wagon R were to participate, what would it participate in? Dheeraj Sharmista?
Service product totally?
If Wagon R has to get into a PR event where it has to communicate, what kind of event would it participate in? Obviously, a business event. Obviously, a business event where people who have arrived
Executive.
would like to, yes, an executive event. Okay, and therefore, if you recall, Wagon R had a business challenge, okay, for entrepreneurs, where they would fund some projects like as angel investors. Okay, they had events where the executive meets were organized. Okay, get together, speaking on or discussing a particular kind of topic. So a PR event is not just any event that you can get into. I'll be visible. That's not how you do it. You have to be very selective. The word strategy, is not about only what you're going to do, but what you are also not going to do. The not word is also important. So that's what it is. So then it is obviously adaptability, then visuals, what kind of visuals you communicate, that automatically again is a subconscious thing that happens. Then feedback and testing. So when you have launched a particular campaign, it is very, very important to first test it on a smaller crowd, more captive crowd, to understand it, fine tune it. And then once you've launched it full scale, then you need the feedback to measure its success or what you could have done better. Authenticity is always, the more genuine you are, the more people would begin to love you. And then always keep to ethics. So we will, from here onwards, shall we do it in the next one? Because this will take a little more time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next time we are meeting at 7 then. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, so have good Sunday.
Yes.
Don't relax too much because tomorrow is Monday. Particularly, I'm talking to someone who's busy constantly. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.